just yet.
Okay.
Um,
I'm just going to turn
yes.
the more lights on. One sec.
Okay.
Okay. It's official. I'm recording my audio.
It's your official.
It's official. I'm not even doing it pretend.
All righty. I was going to say that's a wrap, folks, but we haven't even done the episode yet.
That's a wrap. Gotcha.
It's
So
been a long year.
it has been a long year.
Actually, before we start,
Yeah.
because Kate, this will be the last recording we do in the 2022.
Yes.
So this episode will be released in 2023.
Yeah.
Folks, is going to rock up in the time future car. That's what we've been done. What's your favourite memory of 2022, Kate?
Oh, that is a great question. Oh my goodness. I mean, nothing immediately springs to mind, which is a worry. My favorite memory of 2022, it's probably that I have some enlightenment about my life and where I want to be and where I want to go and things like that. So I'm making some changes in the next 12, 24 months, which I think are just going to be really positive for me. So
that's pretty huge.
Yeah, it's big. So I'm excited to be progressing in my life. She doesn't like to be stagnant. She gets, itchy feet, this girl. So she's going to get out in the world and scratch that itch.
Yeah, Kate's had a really bad tinea infection for quite a few years. Folks.
But I put magic cream on it, so that's okay.
It's made her foot play fetish, just not work out for her.
It hasn't. And that's what's been a struggle, because I need my foot play. Dominic, how about yourself? What has been a highlight of 2022 for you? I think that I could probably pick it, but you might surprise me.
Oh, I feel like I've had some good stuff this year.
Yeah.
Like baby Grayson being born, that's pretty big. Getting engaged to Kane, that's pretty big. But
absolutely.
I think I'm gonna take a leaf out of your book, Kate, and I'd say the same. This year has been like a bit of a milestone year of I've had, 5 to 10 years of pretty steady, consistent sort of routine and direction. And now that I'm staring down the barrel of 40, that isn't a gun joke, by the way.
No, that is a double-barreled shotgun, that puppy.
Yes. I think I'm also going to be looking at making some course corrections or some life changes next year, which I'm really excited about too. So
amazing.
We're going to do it together, Kate.
I think we are. Let's do it. I love it. I realized too, we're 3 minutes in and I didn't give you one of these. Hi, Dom.
Hi, Kate.
What a pleasure to see you.
Oh, look, folks, we're so excited. This is the last episode. We've already explained it, but it's a bit of a end of the year celebration for Kate now. We're so pumped.
It is. I should have got a drink. Maybe I'll have to go and get one.
Sure. You can definitely leave at any point during this story.
If you don't hear from me, I've gone to the fridge again. And I'll just come back and be like, oh, yeah, interesting.
Well, before we start, some lovely housekeeping. Make sure you put your card on the door. So if you don't want to be disturbed first thing in the morning.
That's right.
Or you want to organize your continental breakfast.
Leave your shoes out. We'll shine them.
Yes, but it is the usual. I'm sorry, folks. We say it every time, but just so you don't forget, because you are a forgettable bunch. Our social media, Shitting Bricks Podcast. We're on YouTube. We're on TikTokies. We're on Instaboodles. Face. Go find us. Go interact with us. We're really funny. There's all this extra stuff that you totally miss out on. So go check out the socials. And second of all, Patreon. Kate and I introduced Patreon this year, and we're doing extra episodes on that as well. And it only costs you like $4 a month, which is nothing.
Bargain.
Yeah, that's 2 avocados at the moment.
It is 2 avocados.
They've gotten cheap.
Yeah, I like it. I'm here for it.
Just like me. And probably, if we do it in the order that we're recording it, which we most likely will, is next week we will have a special episode that we're recording with another podcast. So please stay tuned for that. I'm sure it's across all of our socials already, but make sure you tune in for us and listen to all the awesomeness that we are and the interview that we're giving. So
that's right. That's very exciting. What a good housekeeping segmente.
Yeah. Great way to start the year.
Yeah. Dom, do you have a story for us today?
I'm prepared this time.
I don't know what that feels like, so that's cool.
Well, I think we've gone on a bit of a journey of like we've all of a sudden, Kate and I have like discovered all these phobias and all these fears and things that we're like, oh my goodness, how have we never talked about these before?
Yeah.
I've got another one for us, Kate.
Excellent.
This week, I'm going to introduce everyone, and you've got to guess what this is a fear of.
Okay.
Demonophobia.
Oh. I think that's got something to do with the 2022 premiership run by the Melbourne Demons. It's something that pops up for people that support that AFL club, and it's something that has been, sort of happening since the 1960s. I do know that my dear sister Chelsea, my brother-in-law Craig, your family as well, Dominic, have all suffered from demonophobia at one point in the last century.
Yes, exactly. Or if you're not part of our weird family, here's the more generic definition of demonophobia.
Oh, I thought I nailed that one.
You did that. I'm so glad you picked up on that little.
I thought you might have been throwing me that. You just got the little white ball out and popped it on the tee and handed me a driver, didn't you?
Call me Woods. All right.
Do I have to call you Woods?
No, you don't.
Okay, thank God.
Don't call me Tiger either.
No, I won't.
As long as you didn't say Lion Woods. Okay, demonophobia, folks. It is an abnormal and persistent fear of evil, supernatural beings in persons who believe such beings exist and roam freely to cause harm.
Okay. So this is an everyday thing.
Yeah.
Right.
So those who suffer from this phobia realize their fear is excessive or irrational. I don't necessarily think so. I'm sure there's people think it's completely rational.
Yeah.
But let's not get into that side of things. Or Dom will go off on a tangent.
We'll be here all day.
Nevertheless, they become unduly anxious when discussing demons, when venturing alone in the woods or in a dark house, or even when watching films about demonic possession and exorcism.
Okay. That seems reasonable, but I see what you're saying in terms of it being a persistent fear.
Yeah. And we've covered that. Go back and listen to our episode on the possession of Anna Eklund, folks.
Oh,
that was a 2-parter. That was a good one.
That was a good one.
Now, demonophobia, a bit of etymology for you, Kate, because I know you love it.
Oh, lap it up. Give me that etymology.
It is derived from the Greek daemon, which means deity, evil spirit. And your favorite word, phobos.
Phobos. I might just get phobos on a t-shirt, I think.
That would actually, that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
We'll add it to our thing.
Okay.
Now, this same Greek word also gives us the English word demonize, which is a verb widely used today to brand a person such as a political opponent,
yes,
as unfit or untrustworthy.
Okay.
Which is pretty much Scott Morrison in every definition of the word.
Yeah.
So what I thought, folks, this end of the year celebration, for us at least in our timeline, I thought I would go back and do one of the mother of all stories. You all should probably know it. And if you don't, that's why we're doing this episode.
I probably won't.
Kate might not because it's not really her cup of tea. But this is the rather shortened but true 101 story of the Amityville Horror.
Ooh, I do know this because it's on the Netflix or the Binge or something, but I haven't watched it because it's too spoopy for me.
Yeah, well, there's quite a few versions, so I thought let's get down to the truth about it all, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So you know when you do eventually watch it at some point in your life, you know what the true facts are.
Exactly. Can I just tell you, and it's a little sidebar, I read a book a little while ago, and it was very, very good. And it was one, so I am not a big reader, but I'm just quickly find the novel. Yes, I found it. Okay, so it is called Hidden Pictures, and it's by an author named Jason Rekulak. And I borrowed it from school, and I started reading it at nighttime, and it is a bit scary at the start, and it does have to do with demons. And I was reading it at nighttime. I live on my own, and it was hitting about midnight, and I had to leave my lamp on, and I had to, when I got up to do little wheeze, I was like, it's under the bed. Like, I had this overwhelming sense. I was like, you're an idiot. You are a grown human being. There is no fictional demon from a book under your bed. And I just couldn't shake it. I had to go on TikTok for like an hour just to watch funnies so that I could go to sleep. But it was full on. But I highly recommend that book. I read it in, I think, about 8 hours. I smashed it. It was fab.
I'm literally addicted to that feeling of getting up in the middle of the night and you swear someone's following you up the stairs.
Oh, without a doubt.
Down the hallway. Yeah. And it literally takes over your body, and you just have to run to bed.
You have to run.
Sudden bed's safe.
I had to I did that annoying thing where I turned a page and there's a bit of like a shock value. There's an illustration in the book, and you're reading and then you turn the page, and what's worse is that these illustrations are done by a child, so they're that really just like rudimentary stick figure type thing, but just black and white, like pencil drawing. And I turned the page and I literally said out loud, oh no, I've scared myself, because I got that rush. I was like, oh bother, now I'm traumatized. Oh God, I've gone too far.
You sound like Juliana Kopka's mother.
I was so
on the plane.
Oh, I was traumatized. Yeah. Oh well, I've done it now. Plane's gonna crash.
Okay, folks. Here we go.
Woohoo!
Let's get to the true story that inspired all the movies, all the books, and everything.
Let's go.
The real Amityville Horror. So, in the early morning hours of November 13th, 1974, God, I love the 70s, Ronald DeFeo Jr. killed his entire family in cold blood.
Whoops.
And he claimed that demonic voices told him to do it.
Oh, were those demonic voices like, oh, God, I've got a headache. I just can't be bothered. Everybody shut up.
These hooves are so unruly.
Yeah.
Okay, so for decades, the Amityville Horror has captivated audiences around the globe. It is a scary movie about a haunted house that forced a family to flee after just a month. And this film has inspired many people to seek out the real Long Island home behind the eerie tale. But often lost in the shuffle is the brutal crime that supposedly made the house haunted.
Okay.
And this is the story of the Amityville Murders.
I am glad that we're doing this a little bit earlier in the day for me, because otherwise I'd have to be on TikTok again for another 5 hours. So
yeah, the sun is still up. Now, the real-life horror story began on November 13th, 1974, when a 23-year-old man named Ronald DeFeo Jr. fatally shot his parents and his 4 younger siblings while they were asleep in their home in Amityville, New York.
Goodness me.
Hours after murdering them, DeFeo went to a nearby bar crying for help. DeFeo initially claimed to the police that the murders had likely been a mob hit, and his act was apparently so convincing that he was taken to a local station for protection.
Ooh.
But it didn't take long for cracks to form in his story, and by the next day, he had already confessed to killing his family himself.
Okay.
However, the Amityville Murders case was far from over. Now, when DeFeo went on trial, his lawyer built a case that he was an insane man who became a killer because of the demonic voices in his head. And about a year and a half after the slaughter, a new family moved into the home where the murders took place. They fled the residence after just 28 days, claiming it was really haunted.
Okay. They made it a month.
Not bad.
They made it through someone's cycle.
They made it through Feb.
They're like, I've had enough. Goodbye.
Every day, have September, April, June, and November. I literally still don't know that.
I have no idea. I don't know what months have what dates. Don't ask me. Don't give me any hints and handy tips. I have made it this far in my life, still not knowing. I also will never know how to spell restaurant, guarantee, or receipt. And I do teach the youth. So don't come at me. I'm just settled.
And I love that joke that which month has 28 days? All of them.
Oh, thanks, Dad.
Okay, back to the story. Though the crime has often been an afterthought throughout the years, thanks in part to the popularity of the film The Amityville Horror, it's even more horrifying than anything that Hollywood could ever dream up. So let's get into it, as I like to say.
Yes, please.
That is my catchphrase. Honestly.
Mine's now. Which we established last time. Now, this is the next part of my story.
All right. So on the outside, the DeFeos appeared to live happy lives on Long Island during the early 1970s. And according to the New York Times, one of their neighbors described them as a nice, normal family.
Always. Put that as the headline. Yeah. Were they normal? Were they nice? Yes, yes. Murderers. Done. Yeah. I need to go out of my way to stop being normal and nice. I need to start being creepy, and I need to get some like Dharma fragrances going on, some roasting meat, like get them people creeped so that they leave me alone.
Be the neighbors from The Burbs, another classic Tom Hanks movie.
Oh, I don't know that one.
Oh my God, Kate.
Okay.
Everyone, no, don't stop listening, but put this on your watch list of 2023. Go back and watch one of the best 80s or maybe 90s film, The Burbs.
Okay.
Burbs. It is Tom Hanks at his finest.
I'm putting it in my book.
Yeah. Now, on the outside, the DeFeos appeared to live happy lives. I already said that. So the family was comprised of Ronald DeFeo Sr., and Louise DeFeo and their 5 children, Ronald Jr., Dawn, Allison, Mark, and John Matthew. They lived in an affluent part of Long Island called Amityville, and their Dutch colonial home had a swimming pool and a nearby boat dock. Inside the house, there were life-size portraits of the family hung on the walls. All standard, right?
Nice, normal, standard.
One local girl told the Times that Ronald DeFeo Sr. had frequently given her rides to her family's restaurant in Brooklyn, and another neighbor named Catherine O'Reilly said the DeFeos had befriended her after her husband passed away. It seemed as if the family were kind, loving people. But, and there's always a but.
Although
the DeFeos were a very different family behind closed doors.
I could smell it.
Which we knew. Some of that rotten meat.
Just wafting down the river, that one.
Now, Ronald DeFeo Sr. managed an auto dealership, a job that certainly couldn't support the family's lavish lifestyle. Instead, much of their money came from Louise's father, Michael Briganti, who purchased the family's home for them, allowing them to move out of their small Brooklyn apartment. Now, Brigante later gave his son-in-law about $50,000 to have the family portraits painted.
What? Oh my
Yeah.
God. If you gave me $50,000 cash and said, can you get the portraits done? I'd be like, no worries. Of course. I would paint them myself with some, paint by numbers, and it cost me about $50 and I would pocket the other cash.
It'd probably
50,000.
look like that scary portrait that you read in your book.
It would look exactly the same. A rudimentary stick figure. That is all you can get, but I will do that for 50 grand.
So for all the wealth and luxury that Ronald, or Big Ronnie, we'll call him, DeFeo
Perfect.
Sr., showed off, he had in truth earned very little for it himself. Now, Big Ronnie was also reportedly an abusive and violent man.
Mm-hmm.
Most often, he took his anger and frustration out on his eldest child, Ronald DeFeo Jr.,
Mm-hmm.
who usually went by the name Butch.
Okay.
And as Butch grew up, he struggled to find any common ground with his father. Okay?
Makes sense. If you are beating the shit out of me, I don't know if we've got a heap in common.
Now, Butch was also bullied at school for being overweight, with kids calling him names like Pork Chop and the Blob.
Sorry. I'm just thinking about one of our reels that we posted recently where you're my little pork roll.
Yeah.
It made me think of that.
I mean, we all know if we had to do, honestly, the worst, scariest shitting bricks thing in all of history, we would all agree that kids are probably the most evil, potential for terrible things. And
100%.
it's just, no mercy sometimes. And by his teenage years, he had lost most of that weight through his use of amphetamines, which he had come to rely on, along with alcohol as a coping mechanism.
Okay.
So poor Butch is definitely having a rough of it. And if you go back and read all of the detail of the abuse and what Butch got up to, it's just hours and hours worth of reading. It's so much in there, what he went through.
Yeah.
Now, he and his father continued to fight frequently. Butch once pulled a gun on Big Ronnie, and although Butch was technically employed at his family's dealership, he rarely showed up to work and left early when he did.
Okay.
All right. Butch, I'm glossing over a lot of stuff here, but Butch
is messed up. Butch has got some problems.
Butch is not in a good way. Now, in general, he spent most of his time doing drugs or drinking, getting into fights and arguing with his parents. Still, no one expected that that Butch's troubles would lead him to commit the Amityville murders. Butch's ongoing conflict with his father came to a violent head when he fatally shot Big Ronnie with a .35 caliber Marlin rifle as he slept during the early hours of November 13th in 1974. But of course, he didn't just kill his father, he also turned the gun on his mother, Louise. Then, 23-year-old Butch went into the bedrooms where his siblings were sleeping and murdered 18-year-old Dawn, 13-year-old Allison, 12-year-old Mark, and 9-year-old John Matthew with the exact same weapon. After killing his family, Butch took a shower, he got dressed, and he collected any incriminating evidence.
Okay.
On his way to work, he threw the evidence, including the gun, into a storm drain, and then he went on about his normal day. He feigned ignorance as to why his father hadn't shown up for work as planned and even called him, faking as if it was a normal thing to do.
Yeah.
As the day went on, he decided to leave work and spend the afternoon with his friends, making sure to mention to all of them that he couldn't get in touch with his family for the same reason.
Right. Laying the groundwork here.
Yeah. Then he prepared for the discovery of his family's bodies. So in the early evening, Butch ran to a nearby bar, screaming for help. According to the New York Daily News, he told the patrons there that someone had shot his family and begged them to come back with him to his house. The shocked bargoers were greeted by a truly horrific scene. Each member of the DeFeo family was found lying face down in bed with fatal bullet wounds. Big Ronnie and Louise had both been shot twice, and their children had been shot one time each. Now, according to a local TV thing, police arrived at the scene and found an in-shock Butch waiting for them. And Butch initially claimed to the authorities that he believed his family had been targeted by the mob. At first, it seemed like the cops might buy his story, and they even took him to a police station for his protection, but they soon noticed details that didn't line up.
Something ain't adding up.
Yeah. So, for example, Butch maintained that he had been at work all morning and with friends all afternoon. Therefore, he couldn't have killed his family. But the police quickly determined that the bodies had been shot sometime in the early morning, well before Butch would have gone to work.
Yeah, this is the 70s, right? They've got some form of investigative process that they could determine this.
Well, it is, as you said, it's the 70s, so sometimes you just never know.
Yeah, well, that's it. It's a mixed bag.
Very mixed bag. Now, and after Butch mentioned a notorious mob hitman who could have killed his family, police soon found out that the hitman was out of state, so it couldn't have been whoever.
Oh, well, you want to check that out. I better just see if the person I'm going to blame all these murders on is in town.
Yep. Now, by the next day, Butch had confessed to the crime. He'd told the police, once I started, I just couldn't stop, and it went so fast. So, Butch's criminal trial in October 1975 captured attention for two reasons. First, the sheer brutality of his crime and the unusual details surrounding the defense. Now, his lawyer built a case claiming that he was an insane man who'd killed his family in self-defense because of the demonic voices in his head. Getting to our phobia.
Ooh.
Now, ultimately, Butch was found guilty of 6 counts of second-degree murder in November. He would later be sentenced to 6 consecutive sentences of 25 years to life in prison. But the story of the Amityville murders was not over, folks.
It's not over yet.
For one thing, there was...
Yeah, sorry, I just want to ask, is concurrently at the same time and consecutively is one after the other?
Yeah.
Thank you, I just needed to know.
One followed on after the other, yeah. So for one thing, there was still mystery surrounding the case. Authorities had no idea how all 6 victims had died in their sleep without a struggle. Right? You think about it. It's a rifle. There's no silencers. This is not fancy stuff. This is a good old-fashioned rifle.
Yeah.
You've shot your parents twice, dad first, mum second, 4 shots in total.
4 shots. Okay.
And 4 kids are still nothing, nowhere, didn't get out of bed, nothing.
And it's not like they were like, 2 or 3 year olds, like one was an 18-year-old. You would think, okay.
Another thing that puzzled them was that none of the neighbours had heard the gunshots, despite the fact that Butch did not use a gun silencer.
Yeah.
And this isn't like out in the properties like sticks, folks. This is like there's
neighbours
sort of each other.
Yeah.
So Butch claimed to have drugged his family's dinner, but experts noted that a long time had passed between the meal and the family's deaths. So they didn't buy that would have affected
that's what happened.
Perhaps most chillingly is the killer's motive completely remained uncertain. We can maybe understand Big Ronnie, but what about everybody else?
Yeah.
It's clear that Butch had many issues with his father. It baffled many that he would go after the rest of his family members, especially his youngest siblings. And considering the fact that Butch would change his story multiple times in prison, he shed very little light on the haunting mystery. All things changed. In December 1975, a new family moved into the DeFeo's old home. You might remember this name, and people often pick up this name because this is the name of the family and the haunting and da-da-da-da-da. So,
okay. I mean, I won't know because I don't know anything, but hit me.
So George Lutz, L-U-T-Z, and his wife Kathy and their 3 children stayed at the residence for just 28 days before fleeing the property in terror. They claimed that the house was haunted by the spirits of the deceased DeFeos. From green slime reportedly oozing from the walls to windows, suddenly shattering, to family members allegedly levitating in bed,
Ooh.
their claims sounded like something straight out of a horror film.
Yeah, it does.
And just a couple years later, in 1977, author Jay Anson published a novel titled The Amityville Horror, and it was based on the Lutz family's claims of paranormal activity happening in the home. In 1979, a movie by the same name was released to the delight of horror fans, some of whom actively sought out the real Amityville Horror House in search of paranormal activity. Incredibly, there have been over a dozen films based on the murders released since then, but the 1979 movie starring James Brolin and Margot Kidder as George and Kathy Lutz remains perhaps the best known. And I would have to agree, folks. I mean, there was a Ryan Reynolds one, and oof, he took his shirt off a lot in that movie.
I mean, fair enough.
Yeah, watch it just for that.
Okay. But should I watch the original one?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
That's the best. Now, after his conviction, Butch gave several varying accounts of how the killings were carried out. In a 1986 interview for Newsday, Butch claimed his sister Dawn killed their father and then their distraught mother killed all of his siblings, apparently with a rifle before he killed his mother. He stated that he took the blame because he was afraid to say anything negative about his mother to her father, Michael Brigante Sr., and his father's uncle, out of fear that they would kill him. His father's uncle was Peter DeFeo, a part of the Genovese crime family, so there was
they're the big dogs.
Legitimate fear. Yeah. Now, in this interview, Butch also asserted he was married at the time of the murders to a woman named Geraldine Gates, with whom he was living in New Jersey, and that his mother phoned to ask him to return to Amityville to break up a fight between Dawn and their father. Subsequently, he drove to Amityville with Geraldine's brother, Richard Romando, who was with him at the time of the murders and could verify his story completely. Interesting.
There's too much happening. There's too many conflicting tales.
In 1990, Butch filed a 440 motion, a proceeding to have his conviction vacated. In support of his motion, Butch asserted that Dawn and an unknown assailant who fled the house before he could get a good look at him killed their parents, and Dawn subsequently killed their siblings. He said the only person he killed was Dawn and that it was by accident as they struggled over the rifle. Again, he asserted he was married to Geraldine and that her brother was with him at the time of the murders. An affidavit from Richard Romando was submitted to the court, and it was asserted he could not be located to testify in person. Evidence was submitted to the court by the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office suggesting that Richard Romando did not exist and that Geraldine Gates was living in upstate New York, married to someone else at the time of the murders.
Right. So that's just made up as well.
We just don't know what's going on, folks.
Oh, this is too confusing.
Now, Geraldine Gates did not testify at this hearing because the authorities had already confronted her about the false claims back in 1992 and secured a statement under oath where she admitted that Romando was fictitious and that she did not actually marry Butch until 1989 in anticipation of the filing of the 440 motion. It was all a ploy. It
was a plan.
Yep. So Judge Stark denied the motion, obviously, writing, "I find the testimony of the defendant overall to be false and fabricated. His testimony that during the fall of 1974 he was married and lived with his wife and child at Long Branch, New Jersey, is incredible and not worthy of belief. He produced no corroborating evidence in this regard, and another reason for my disbelief of defendant's testimony is demonstrated by consideration of several portions of the trial testimony. He signed a lengthy written statement describing in detail his activities, and in this statement he said that he lived with his family at 112 Ocean Avenue in Amityville and that he worked for his father. that he usually went to and from work with his father, that he was ill and stayed home from work on November 12th, 1974, and that he was on probation for having stolen an outboard engine and even had an appointment to see his probation officer in Amityville on that very afternoon.
Oh.
Even the defendant's girlfriend, the real one, Mindy Weiss, testified that she began dating the defendant in June 1974 and was with him frequently that summer and fall. Stark further declared that the defendant's testimony that he did not shoot and kill the members of his family is likewise incredible and not worthy of belief.
I think he did do it, though.
Yeah.
So that would be that's me coming in as a lawyer. Yeah, I think he did it. What's the vibe? Is the vibe off?
I'm just not buying it.
Nah.
It's a very Amber Heard vibe.
It is. There is a big Amber Heard feeling about this one.
Now, on November 30th, 2000, which, by the way, I'm not going to comment on Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. I think the whole thing was just ridiculous on all sides. But anyway, not playing down anything. Just got to protect myself there.
That's a whole other episode.
Because someone's going to fucking sue me. Now, on November 30th, 2000, Butch met with Rick Osuna, the author of The Night the DeFeos Died, which was published in 2002. Now, according to Osuna, they spoke for about 6 hours. However, in a letter to the radio show host Lou Gentile, Butch denied giving Rick Osuna information that could be used in his book, claiming that he immediately left the interview and did not speak to Osuna about anything substantive. Look, Butch, we can't trust you, so who knows what's going on. But according to Osuna, Butch claimed that he had committed the murders with his sister Dawn and 2 friends, Augie DeGennaro and Bobby Kelski.
He's just roping in everybody. He's just like, hang on, it was this person. No, it was this person. That was me mom. Now it's me sis. Now it's me sister, me friends. It's me friends. Like, come on.
Mm-hmm. He said it was out of desperation because his parents had plotted to kill him.
Okay.
Now, allegedly, Butch claimed that after a furious row with his father, he and his sister planned to kill their parents and that Dawn murdered the children in order to eliminate them as witnesses. He said that he was enraged on discovering his sister's actions, knocked her unconscious onto her bed and shot her in the head. Police found traces of unburned gunpowder on Dawn's nightgown, which Butch proponents alleged proved she discharged a firearm.
Right.
However, at the trial, the ballistics expert, Alfred Della Penna, testified that unburned gunpowder is discharged through the muzzle of the weapon, indicating that she was in proximity to the muzzle of the weapon when it was discharged, and not that she had fired the weapon itself.
Okay.
He reiterated this on an A&E Amityville documentary that is extensively discussed in Will Sarve's Mentally Ill in Amityville. Sarve had an expert evaluate Della Penna's assessment, and the expert confirmed that he was correct. Moreover, the medical examiner found nothing to indicate that Dawn had been in a struggle. The bullet wound was the only fresh mark on her body. So, not pinning it on dear old Dawn is not.
It's not working out for you, Butch.
Not flying. Now, Joe Nickel notes that given the frequency with which Butch has changed his story over the years, any new claims from him regarding the events that took place on the night of the murders should be approached with absolute caution. Most of the claims made in Rick Osuna's book are sourced to Butch's ex-wife, Geraldine Gates. She's not very trustworthy.
Yep.
And while in 1986 interview with Newsday, she asserted she married Butch in 1974. In Osuna's book, she alleges they are married in 1970. And there's a divorce in 1993. The case says that they met actually in 1985 and married in 1989. So it's all just a mishmash, folks, of inconsistencies. Now, Rick Osuna's book was adapted into a docudrama titled Shattered Hopes, the true story of the Amityville Murders, which I just find it so frustrating that these things get picked up and made, and they're clearly based off of inconsistencies and whatever. And before you know it, there's a fucking movie made out of it. Someone's making millions of dollars off of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that film was released on December 16th, 2011. It was written and directed and produced by Ryan Katzenbach and featuring narration by veteran actor Ed Asner. It examines all aspects of the Amityville case with a strong focus on the Butch family and the events surrounding their murders. Now, DeFeo's death, Butch's death. He is quoted saying, "I guess the Amityville Horror really is supposed to be me," he once said, "because I'm the one that got convicted of killing my family. I'm the only one who they say who did it. I'm the one that's supposed to be possessed by the devil." Now, Butch died age 69 on March 12th, 2021.
Ooh, okay.
At the Albany Medical Center, and the official cause of death has never been released to the public.
It was the devil.
Now, there's all these other long-standing claims and things from him that he was possessed, that he was being visited in the night, he woke up in sweats, and I think there's also a story about a dog was like talking to him, like a possessed dog was talking to him. You know, it's that usual schizophrenia sort of.
Yeah. Do you think it's got anything to do with the amphetamines and the booze maybe as well?
Yeah.
Maybe that's got a bit of something to do with it.
But the reason why I picked this story is because of the possession and because of the Lutz family and their account of those 28 days. And it was so detailed and so realistic, and it wasn't sold as like a thing. You know how other, we've talked about other, supposed accounts of possession and things like that. They're all over the joint. This wasn't done in the same sort of like, here's my story, give us attention type thing. It was very sudden and very freaky.
Okay. And swept under the rug a little bit more?
Oh. So, Kate, that is my very, very quick Amityville Truth 101. There's so much more to the story, but there's no time.
No, we don't. We've got to go on holidays. And we've got to have a time. But I have learned, and that I thank you for, because again, I don't know anything about anything that's scary. So why we're doing this podcast together is, it's becoming more apparent. I need to learn, and I'm loving this.
I just think it's so good, especially because a lot of our introduction is through film, television, whatever. It's just really important to go back and hear the real truth, like the real cases and the real stories behind it.
Definitely.
Because then when you go and watch it, you can, I don't know, it's just a little bit more real.
It gives you a bit more of a background. Yay! I love that. Thank you so much for sharing your tale.
You're welcome.
And I hope that people jump onto our socials and to our Patreons. And I also hope that everybody is having a good festy season and that they are safe and well and having a great time.
Exactly. Welcome to 2023, folks. It's fantastic.
We're loving it.
Yeah, we've got so much planned for the new year. So, buckle up.
Get
folks.
Involved.
Remember to wipe, flush, and wash your hands.
Yep, do all of those things. All right, listeners, I was just about to say readers. If you're reading this, cool. But if you're listening, we love you, and we'll see you again next week. Bye. I'm the devil. Whee!
My goodness.
That was good. I love those, giving you more of a background on what it was and how it happened.